AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she insulted my future spouse? So this is going to be a long one, and I hope I can explain it clearly. I, 26F, have a younger sister, Lily, 23F, and we've always had a competitive relationship. Not the toxic type, more like we constantly compare achievements and appearances, though things have gotten better since college. Our parents are very traditional, and for a long time, my sister was always the golden child in their eyes, which didn't help. I always try to make peace with that and stayed out of major arguments. About 2 months ago, Lily got engaged. Her fiancé, Tom, 27M, seems great on the surface. He's funny, well-mannered, and has a stable job. My boyfriend, Adam, 28M, has been with me for 3 years. He's a software engineer, kind, patient, and genuinely caring. I know my parents sometimes don't understand the tech world, but they generally like Adam. The conflict started during the engagement party. Lily had invited both sides of the family, and Adam came with me. Things were fine at first. Everyone was mingling, drinking, and chatting. But at some point, Lily came over to me while I was helping Adam get a drink and whispered, "Honestly, I don't know why you're with him. He's so bland. I mean, he's fine, but he's not exciting. I just hope no one thinks I settled by marrying Tom." I froze because I couldn't believe what she had said. I tried to laugh it off, saying, "Thanks, I guess," and walked away. Adam noticed immediately and asked what she said. I told him, and he was hurt, but he brushed it off for my sake. The rest of the evening went okay, though I noticed my parents subtly shifting their attention toward Lily's fiancé, which isn't unusual, but it felt more pronounced after the comment. The real problem came last week when Lily called me to discuss her wedding plans. She wanted me to help with seating arrangements, floral design choices, and even the guest list. Normally, I would help, but after what she said, I felt hesitant. During the call, she made another comment. "I just can't imagine Adam actually fitting in with my family. He's so ordinary. I don't want my wedding photos to look like he doesn't belong. You know, I have high standards for appearances and personalities." I was shocked. I tried to reason with her, saying, "He's wonderful, and I love him. If that's a problem, maybe we should rethink things," but she dismissed me, saying I was too sensitive. I spent a few days thinking about whether I should attend. I love my sister, but the way she keeps putting down Adam, and by extension me, feels disrespectful. I also talked to my parents, and surprisingly, they told me to let it slide and just smile for the pictures, which felt like they were ignoring the issue entirely. I felt like attending would be condoning her behavior. Yesterday, I called Lily and told her I wouldn't be attending the wedding. I explained that it wasn't because I don't love her, but because she hasn't treated Adam with respect, and I don't want to support that kind of environment. I told her that weddings are supposed to be about love and family, not putting others down to make yourself feel superior. She immediately blew up. She said I was selfish, dramatic, and ruining the happiest day of her life. She also told me that Adam shouldn't take everything so personally, and that if I cared about her, I'd put aside my feelings for one day. After the call, she started messaging me repeatedly, and some mutual friends have asked why I'm not attending. My parents are quietly disappointed, but aren't pressuring me as much now. Adam is supportive and tells me he agrees I shouldn't go, but he's upset about the family tension it's creating. I feel guilty because I don't want to ruin my sister's day entirely, but at the same time, I don't want to tolerate her belittling Adam. I've also been considering the long-term effects. If I go, I feel like it will set a precedent that she can insult my partner and get away with it. I worry that even if I go to the wedding, it will be awkward and tense, and I might regret it forever. On the other hand, missing her wedding means I'll lose some family memories and might permanently strain our relationship. So AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she insulted Adam multiple times, or should I just swallow my pride for one day to keep the peace? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for not inviting my sister to my wedding after she insulted my future husband in front of my entire family. So this is going to be long because the situation is complicated, but I'll try to lay out everything clearly. I, 28F, recently got engaged to my fiancé, Mark, 30M. We've been together for about 4 years, and honestly, he's been amazing. He's kind, funny, supportive, and we really complement each other. I was super excited when we got engaged, and immediately I started thinking about the wedding. I knew I wanted it to be a big celebration, and I started making plans about a year in advance. Here's the tricky part. My sister, Sarah, 32F, has always had a complicated relationship with Mark. She's known him since we started dating, and from the beginning, she's made these passive-aggressive comments. They're usually subtle, but they've been consistent. Things like, "I hope he treats you well," in a tone that implies she doesn't think he's good enough for me, or, "I guess he's okay," in response to updates about his accomplishments. I always brushed it off because I wanted to avoid family drama. Fast forward to a few months before the wedding. My parents hosted a family dinner at their house, and it was the first time all the relatives would meet Mark after the engagement. Everything was going fine until dessert. For some reason, Sarah decided it would be a good idea to make a joke about Mark. She said, I still don't get why you picked him. He's fine, I guess, but he's kind of boring and kind of plain. I mean, if I were you, I'd have aimed higher." There was dead silence at the table. My parents looked shocked, Mark looked hurt, and I immediately felt this surge of anger. I didn't know what to say at first. I tried to laugh it off, but my jaw was tight. I didn't want to ruin the dinner entirely, so I said something like, "Okay, moving on, dessert is served," but inside I was fuming. After dinner, Mark and I talked privately, and he admitted he was hurt but didn't want to make a big scene. I told him I understood and that we would handle it together. After that incident, I made a decision that I thought was fair. I emailed Sarah, explaining that because of her repeated insults toward Mark, I didn't feel comfortable having her at the wedding. I was clear that this wasn't a punishment for a single comment, but a consequence of her ongoing behavior. I offered to meet her for coffee to talk things through, but I also made it clear that attending the wedding was not negotiable unless she sincerely apologized and acknowledged her behavior. Sarah responded with a long, angry email. She claimed I was overreacting, that she was just joking, and that she was hurt because I was choosing a man over my family. She said she couldn't believe I would even consider leaving her out of such an important event. She also CC'd my parents, which I thought was unnecessary because I wanted to handle it privately. My parents were upset that she went behind my back, but they didn't force me to change my decision. Some of my extended family started sending me texts asking why Sarah wasn't invited, and that added to the stress. I want to make it clear that this wasn't just one comment. This was a pattern over 4 years. She's insulted his career choices, his appearance, and even joked about our future children in a cruel way. I tried to set boundaries in the past, but she always brushed me off with "I'm just being honest," or "I can't help it, it's a joke." Every time, I tried to remind myself that the wedding is about me and Mark, not about her feelings. The wedding happened last month, and honestly, it was amazing. Mark and I had a perfect day, surrounded by friends and family who actually support us. Sarah didn't attend, obviously, and she has not spoken to me since. Some relatives have criticized me for being harsh and not trying harder to reconcile, while others completely support my decision. Mark has been supportive, saying that I did the right thing for our mental health and the sanctity of our wedding day. The reason I'm posting this is that a few people on social media, friends, and some extended family, are saying I overreacted and that wedding should be inclusive, even if there's tension. They think I should have let Sarah come, because family is family. I understand wanting family there, but I feel like I drew a necessary boundary for my own well-being and my fiancé's. I'm still feeling a mix of guilt and relief. I miss my sister, but I also feel proud that I stood up for myself and Mark. I just want to know if I was really in the wrong here. AITA for not inviting my sister to my wedding after she insulted my fiancé multiple times? Character count, 6,401 if you want. I can also create a second version that's even more dramatic and long, hitting closer to the 7,000 character maximum for maximum Reddit-style drama. It would include more family dynamics and side stories to really make it immersive. Do you want me to do that? AITA for ruining my sister's wedding because I refused to follow her perfect day rules? So I, 27F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F. We've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child, straight A's, athletic, everyone loved her. I was the creative one, a bit of troublemaker, but generally responsible. Our parents never really tried to treat us equally, but we managed. Emily got engaged last year, and honestly, I was happy for her. Her fiancé, Matt, 28M, is a good guy, and I thought they'd make a solid couple. But then she started planning the wedding, and things got intense. She had these very specific ideas about how the wedding should go, to the point where she started treating everyone like a task to be checked off a list. From the beginning, she set up a rules list for all the bridesmaids and close family members. Things like no bold lipstick, no bright nail polish, no jewelry unless it matches the theme, no smiling in certain pictures, no social media posts until she personally approves them, and absolutely no deviations from her planned photo poses. Even more extreme, she gave me a schedule of what I was allowed to do during the rehearsal dinner, and it was literally broken down by 15-minute intervals. At first, I tried to roll with it. I'm generally easygoing and didn't want to make things harder, but as the planning went on, her control freak side got worse. She started demanding that I alter my hair color to something more bridal appropriate, and even suggested I lose 5 pounds before the wedding to fit the aesthetic. My parents and I told her that was ridiculous, but she brushed it off as just wanting everything to look perfect for the photos. The breaking point happened during the dress fitting. She had picked out a pastel pink dress for me, and when I showed up, she started yelling because I had ordered the wrong size. I had triple-checked, it matched the measurement she had given me. She insisted I try to squeeze into it, even though it was clearly too small. I refused. She called me dramatic and selfish in front of the store staff. I left, upset, and told her I wasn't going to participate if this was the way she was going to treat me. She stormed off, crying, and I felt terrible, but I also realized that this wedding was slowly turning into a dictatorship. A few weeks later, she sent a group text to all bridesmaids and family members detailing new rules. One of them said, "Any minor disagreements will be discussed with me first. Public displays of disrespect will not be tolerated. Any deviation from my timeline may result in being asked to leave." I felt like I was being treated like a child, and honestly, the more I tried to follow her rules, the more controlling she got. 2 days before the wedding, she called me and said that if I didn't dye my hair lighter and get a manicure that matched the wedding palette, I would not be allowed in the bridal photos. That was the final straw. I told her I wouldn't compromise my autonomy just to fit a vision she had for a day that was supposed to be about her happiness, not mine. I also made it clear that I wouldn't wear the dress she picked. She screamed at me for an hour, calling me selfish, a bad sister, and a spoiler. I hung up because it was pointless to argue. On the day of the wedding, I showed up wearing a dress I had bought myself, hair and makeup exactly how I wanted, and a smile. She noticed immediately and went ballistic. She refused to take pictures with me, skipped me in the ceremony line, and whispered to Matt that I had ruined her day. When we sat down for dinner, she made a big speech about how families should support each other unconditionally, indirectly targeting me. Some guests thought it was funny, but others looked really uncomfortable. The tipping point came during the reception photos. I refused to sit in the exact spot she had planned for me. She screamed in front of everyone, and I told her I wasn't going to be treated like furniture for the sake of aesthetics. At that moment, Matt stepped in and told me to sit somewhere else, which caused a huge argument between him and Emily. Half the guests were watching, and I could feel the tension spike. By the end of the night, Emily had refused to speak to me, and most of the family was whispering about how dramatic everything had been. My parents sided with her mostly, saying that I should have just gone along to make her happy, while a few other relatives admitted privately that they thought Emily's behavior was extreme. I didn't talk to her for 2 weeks after the wedding because she refused to apologize, and whenever I tried to explain my side, she told me I was jealous and attention-seeking. Now, months later, our relationship is strained. She posts pictures of her perfect wedding online and ignores me completely. My friends who witnessed the wedding say I acted appropriately and didn't deserve the way she treated me. But my parents say I was selfish for ruining her perfect day. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to follow my sister's extreme wedding rules and basically sabotaging her vision of a perfect day. Character count, 6,372 if you want. I can also write a second version that's even more dramatic and long, hitting closer to 7,000 characters with more tension, dialogue, and family drama. It could read like one of those viral AITA posts that get 50K plus comments. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay in my house after he insulted my career. I, 27F, live in a medium-sized city and have been working in tech for about 5 years. I recently got promoted to a management position at a software company, which is a big deal for me because I have been working my way up from an entry-level position. My sister, Emma, 30F, is very supportive but has a very different lifestyle. She's been dating her boyfriend, Matt, 32M, for almost a year. Matt has a good job, but he's always been a bit blunt, sometimes to the point of rudeness. A few months ago, Emma asked if Matt could stay at my place for a weekend because they had a little emergency with their apartment, something about a plumbing issue. I agreed because I generally like Matt and thought it would be temporary. The first night went fine. We had dinner, watched some movies, nothing crazy. But the next morning, things started to get weird. Matt started making comments about my apartment. It's a small 2-bedroom I rent in the city, nothing fancy, but perfectly adequate. He said things like, "You probably can't afford something nicer with a manager's salary," and "Wow, this place is cute, I guess, for someone who's just managing people and not actually coding." I brushed it off, thinking maybe he was trying to joke, but the tone fell off. Later that day, he started commenting on my career. I work in software development, and part of my job involves managing a small team of developers. He said things like, "So you manage people now? That's cute. I didn't realize that managing people counts as real work, and you only got promoted because you're a woman, right?" At that point, I was shocked. I work very hard and have earned my position, and he was implying that my accomplishments were invalid. I tried to ignore him, thinking maybe Emma would intervene, but she seemed to just let it slide. I got frustrated and asked him politely to tone it down. He laughed and said, "Relax, it's just banter. Don't be so sensitive." I told him that it wasn't funny to belittle someone's career and that I would appreciate some respect in my home. That evening, he doubled down. At dinner, he made a long monologue about how management roles are easy compared to what he does, which is engineering at a more technical level. He said that people like me are paper managers who never do the real work. Emma tried to calm things down by changing the topic, but it was clear he wasn't going to stop. After dinner, I finally told him that he was no longer welcome to stay in my home. I told Emma he could find another place to stay because I wasn't going to tolerate someone insulting me in my own home. Emma got really upset. She said I was overreacting and that Matt didn't mean anything by it. She accused me of being too sensitive and not being family-oriented. I stood my ground and offered to help them find a hotel or another place to stay, but I refused to let him stay under my roof. Matt left the next morning, and Emma was visibly angry. She hasn't spoken much to me since, except for some passive-aggressive texts about how families should stick together no matter what. Some of my friends think I was right, because it's my home, and I shouldn't have to host someone who is disrespectful. Others say I could have handled it more diplomatically, maybe by talking to Matt in private or setting clearer expectations earlier. The thing is, I don't feel like I was out of line. I tried to stay calm. I told him politely to stop, and when he didn't, I took action. I didn't throw him out in a dramatic way. I just said he couldn't stay. My sister seems to think that my actions are extreme because she feels loyalty to her boyfriend over me, but I can't let someone treat me like that in my own home. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend stay at my place after he repeatedly insulted my career and my home. If you want, I can also craft another one of similar length, but with a different conflict scenario, like involving roommates, extended family, or work situations. It tends to get even more dramatic. This story is currently 6,632 characters, including spaces. Do you want me to make a slightly longer version closer to 7,000 characters with more tension and dialogue? AITA for ruining my cousin's wedding because I refused to lie about a family secret? So, this is going to be a long one, but I need an unbiased perspective because my family is absolutely convinced I'm a villain here, and I can't tell if I really am or if they're just overreacting. A little background. I, 24F, have a cousin, Emily, 26F, who's been like a sister to me. Our families are really close, and we've grown up practically together. Her wedding was this past weekend, and it was a huge event, like 200-plus guests, all fancy, really elaborate. Her fiancé, Mark, 27M, is nice enough, and they've been dating for about 3 years. About a month before the wedding, my aunt, Emily's mom, called me out of the blue and said she needed me to do something for her. She explained that my uncle, Emily's dad, had a bit of a drinking problem that had caused some incidents in the past, including an argument at a family reunion that got semi-public attention. Nothing criminal, but embarrassing. She said, and I quote, "We just need you to tell everyone, if they ask, that Dad doesn't drink anymore and has completely changed. Just say he's been sober for years. It's just for Emily's big day. No one will know otherwise." I was immediately uncomfortable. I don't lie, and I especially don't like lying to protect someone's reputation in a public setting. I tried to reason with her. I said, "Aunt, people might ask, and I don't feel right making something up about Dad. It's his responsibility to deal with it if it comes up." She got really frustrated and said I was being dramatic and that it was just one day and that I was putting Emily's happiness at risk. I didn't respond right away. I spent a few days thinking about it, trying to figure out a compromise. I considered saying something vague like, "He's working on it," but even that felt dishonest. Eventually, I called her and said, "I can't lie about it. If people ask, I'll be honest if it comes up, but I won't pretend it never happened. I hope you understand." She yelled at me over the phone, calling me selfish, immature, and saying I was going to ruin Emily's wedding. Fast forward to the wedding day. The ceremony went fine, very beautiful. Everything went smoothly. During the reception, a couple of relatives who know about my uncle's drinking approached me, jokingly or casually asking if he still drinks. I told them the truth. He has struggled in the past and is working on it. My uncle was mortified. He looked really embarrassed, and my aunt came over and tried to hush me, but the guests were already murmuring. Things escalated when one of Emily's co-workers, who didn't know the history, asked me outright, "I heard there were some incidents in the past. Is he still drinking?" I answered honestly again. At this point, my aunt was practically in tears, begging me to stop, saying I was humiliating the family. My uncle excused himself from the table. Some guests whispered among themselves, and Emily overheard part of the conversation. After the reception, Emily confronted me privately. She was crying and said, "Why did you have to bring that up today? This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and now people are talking. Why couldn't you just say what Mom asked?" I told her that I couldn't lie, even for her, and that I wasn't trying to ruin her day, but I felt like covering up someone's ongoing struggle wasn't fair to anyone, including her guests. She said I completely misunderstood what family support meant. My aunt and uncle have barely spoken to me since. Other relatives are divided. Some say I was honest and did the right thing. Others say I overstepped and created drama unnecessarily. Even some of Emily's friends, who don't know the family history, implied that it was awkward for everyone. I honestly feel like I did the right thing. I don't want to be complicit in a lie, especially when it's about something serious like addiction. But I can't ignore that it did cause embarrassment and tension on a day that's supposed to be joyful. I'm torn between sticking to my principles and being a good family member. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to lie about my uncle's drinking problem, even though it upset my cousin and caused tension at her wedding. AITA for refusing to help my sister with her wedding after she asked me to do something that made me extremely uncomfortable. I, 26F, have always had a complicated relationship with my older sister, Emma, 30F. Growing up, we were close at times, but as we got older, our differences became more pronounced. Emma is incredibly social, outgoing, and very traditional in her views, while I am introverted, independent, and have a more modern perspective on life. Despite this, we've always managed to keep a decent relationship, mostly civil, but occasionally tense. A few months ago, Emma got engaged to her fiancé, Mark, 32M, and naturally, I was excited for her. She called me almost immediately after the proposal to tell me that she wanted me to be involved in the wedding planning process. At first, I thought this was harmless, helping pick flowers, dress fittings, or even just giving opinions on things. I didn't expect it to become a huge source of stress. It all started when she asked me to be part of the bridal party. I agreed because, despite our differences, I wanted to support her. Then she dropped the first bombshell. She wanted me to be in charge of managing the guest list and seating arrangements. I don't mind helping organize, but this seemed extreme for me, considering our family is large and complicated. She insisted it was my responsibility because I know everyone and have good judgment. I reluctantly agreed, thinking it couldn't be that bad. The real issue began when she asked me to coordinate something she called a pre-wedding cleanse ritual. According to Emma, it was a tradition she and her fiancé wanted to start with their bridesmaids and closest female relatives. She described it as a weekend retreat where we would meditate, detox, and participate in what she called bonding ceremonies. I asked her to clarify what these ceremonies involved, and she casually mentioned that they included fasting for 48 hours, drinking only herbal teas, and participating in intimate, guided discussions about our personal sexual experiences to release old energy. I was immediately uncomfortable. I have always been private about my personal life, especially my sexual history, and the thought of sharing such details in a group setting was horrifying. I explained to her that I was not comfortable participating in these activities, especially the part about discussing sexual experiences. She reacted badly. She said I was holding everyone back, that I didn't understand the importance of the ritual, and that I was being selfish. I tried to compromise. I told her I could help with other aspects of the wedding or even participate in the retreat in a limited way, such as attending the meditation sessions or helping with decorations, but I drew the line at the personal discussions. She refused. She said that if I wasn't fully participating, I shouldn't be in the bridal party at all. I felt trapped. I wanted to support her, but I also couldn't betray my boundaries in such an intimate way. After a few tense phone calls and some emotional exchanges, I finally told her I could not participate in the ritual and that if she wanted me to remain in the bridal party, she would need to respect my boundaries. She exploded. She accused me of being controlling, unsupportive, and selfish. She even said that I was embarrassing her and that our family would be disappointed in me for not going along with the tradition. At this point, I decided to step down from the bridal party entirely. I explained that I still wanted to celebrate her wedding, attend the ceremony, and help in ways that didn't involve violating my personal boundaries, but I could not be part of the ritual or anything that made me uncomfortable. She was furious. She hasn't spoken to me since, except for a few passive-aggressive texts saying things like, "I guess I shouldn't have expected anything from you, and Mark and I will have a perfect wedding without drama." Now, my parents and some family members are involved, and they're all divided. My mom thinks I should have participated to avoid family tension, saying, "It's just a weekend. You could have sucked it up for Emma's sake." My dad is more neutral, saying, "Boundaries are boundaries, and it's your sister's responsibility to respect them." Other relatives have taken sides, some calling me stubborn and selfish, while others say Emma is manipulative and unreasonable. I feel incredibly hurt. I wanted to support my sister, but I also feel like she crossed a line by pressuring me to share intimate personal information under the guise of a bonding ritual. I've always respected her choices and traditions, and I expected the same respect in return. I can't help but think that my discomfort is valid and that being coerced into something so personal is not the same as just helping out with a wedding. I'm now torn between trying to reconcile with Emma or keeping my distance until after the wedding. I feel guilty for not going along with her plans, but at the same time, I feel like I did the right thing by sticking to my boundaries. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to participate in my sister's pre-wedding ritual and stepping down from the bridal party over it. Character count, 6,498 if you want. I can make an even longer version closer to 7,000 characters with more details about family drama, conversations, and aftermath, which tends to make these posts even more engaging. Do you want me to do that? AITA for telling my sister she can't control my wedding guest list? I, 27F, have been with my fiancé, Mark, 29M, for almost 6 years. We've been engaged for about a year, and wedding planning has been a process, to say the least. Mark and I are paying for most of the wedding ourselves, with a little contribution from our parents. Overall, it's been going well, but recently, a huge argument with my sister has made me question whether I'm overreacting. To give some background, my sister, Jess, 30F, and I have had a complicated relationship. Growing up, she was the golden child in our family, always praised for her achievements and very controlling over how family events went. I was often left feeling like my opinions didn't matter. While we are generally on okay terms now, Jess has a strong personality, and she likes to take charge in ways that can sometimes feel overbearing. The issue started when I sent out a preliminary guest list to get an idea of numbers for the venue. I included friends, coworkers, and family. When Jess saw it, she immediately went into manager mode. She started sending me long messages about who she thinks should be invited. Some of her suggestions were understandable. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years, but others made no sense to me. She insisted I invite a friend of hers from college who I've never met, my ex-boyfriend from 6 years ago, who she's still friendly with, and several coworkers she likes but I barely know. I tried to explain that I appreciated her input, but that the guest list was ultimately Mark and mine to decide. I told her we had limited space and budget constraints and needed to prioritize people who were important to us personally. Jess didn't take this well. She accused me of being selfish and ungrateful, and said that our family traditions dictated certain people be invited. I pointed out that traditions don't require us to include people we barely know, and that Mark and I should have the right to curate our own wedding experience. The situation escalated when Jess began sending passive-aggressive messages to other family members, asking why I wasn't including her friends and implying that I was trying to cut her out of the planning process. My parents told her to calm down, but she kept pressing. She even hinted that she might not attend if certain people weren't invited, which felt manipulative. The breaking point came last week. I had been firm but polite in telling Jess that we were finalizing the guest list ourselves. She sent me a message late at night that read, "If you don't include everyone I think should be invited, don't expect me to walk you down the aisle. I worked too hard planning my own wedding to watch you do this wrong." Mark and I were both shocked. I had not asked her to walk me down the aisle. That was my choice, but I had assumed she would because she's my sister. Her tone was incredibly hostile and guilt-trippy, so I responded, "Jess, I love you, but you don't get to control my wedding. Mark and I are deciding the guest list, and if you can't support us, that's your choice." Threatening not to walk me down the aisle doesn't change our decision, and it's not fair to manipulate us over something we are paying for and organizing ourselves. The next day, Jess blew up at me again, calling me cold, ungrateful, and ridiculous, and saying I was ruining our family. She told my mom that I was trying to erase her influence, and that she felt hurt and betrayed. My parents are upset with me now because they feel I could have handled it more delicately, and Jess has stopped speaking to me entirely. She's also telling friends that I'm being dictatorial about the wedding, which is stressing me out even more. I feel like I'm justified because at the end of the day, it's my wedding and my life. I want to celebrate with people who are actually meaningful to Mark and me, not someone else's friends. I tried to involve Jess without giving her veto power over everything, but it seems like nothing I do will make her happy. Mark supports me completely, and he even says I should be stricter if necessary, but I can't help but feel guilty for hurting my sister. So AITA for telling my sister she can't control my wedding guest list and for not giving in to her demands? The guest list issue has already caused weeks of tension, and I'm worried that if I don't handle this correctly, it could ruin my relationship with my sister long term. At the same time, I also feel like I have to prioritize my own happiness and my fiancé's over someone else's ego. I just don't know if I'm being too harsh or if I'm standing my ground in a reasonable way. AITA for refusing to host my cousin's wedding after years of him treating me badly? I, 27F, have a cousin, Mike, 30M, who has always been kind of nightmare to deal with. We grew up in the same town, and while we weren't exactly close, our families made sure we saw each other during holidays and birthdays. From a young age, Mike had this habit of being incredibly competitive and passive-aggressive. If I got an award in school, he would scoff or make a joke about how it wasn't that impressive. If I shared good news, he'd always find a way to make it about him. Honestly, I've mostly avoided him in adulthood because it's exhausting to deal with, but family gatherings are unavoidable. Fast forward to last year, Mike got engaged to Sarah, 28F. Initially, I was happy for him. Despite everything, I try to keep the peace. The first red flag came when he announced he wanted me to host the wedding at my apartment. I live in a small 2-bedroom place in the city, and it's absolutely not equipped for a wedding. When I told him it wouldn't be possible, he got defensive, saying things like, "You have a big heart. This would mean so much to everyone if you did this." I tried to explain I literally don't have the space or the resources to host an event for 80-plus people, but he kept pressing. Eventually, I said no firmly, and he moved on without much fuss. Then, over the next several months, he began dropping hints in group texts and in casual conversation with our family that he wanted me to help more. He asked if I could handle decoration since I had a knack for interior design. I'm a graphic designer, not an event planner. He also asked if I could contribute financially, framing it like, "Since you've always been so supportive, I know I can count on you." I refused politely, explaining that my budget didn't allow for that, and that I wasn't comfortable taking on responsibilities I hadn't agreed to. My parents backed me up, but Mike's parents didn't, and Sarah started to get visibly frustrated whenever I said no to any request. The breaking point came a month ago. Mike called me out of the blue, furious, saying that I wasn't being family-minded and that it was disrespectful that I wouldn't host or contribute. He said, "We're family. You should want to be part of this in a meaningful way. It's like you don't care about me at all." I was stunned because all I had done was set boundaries. I tried to explain that I loved him as family, but that hosting a wedding in my apartment or giving money wasn't a reasonable expectation. He kept yelling about how I was selfish and that I had never been there for him. I hung up after an hour-long argument because I was shaking and exhausted. After that, I decided not to attend the wedding at all. I sent a carefully worded message saying that I was happy for him and wished him and Sarah the best, but I couldn't participate in the wedding due to personal reasons. My parents were supportive, but the rest of my extended family was divided. Some said I was right to protect my own mental health and boundaries, while others accused me of being petty and disrespectful. Mike didn't take it well. He sent multiple messages calling me a coward and a terrible cousin, and Sarah blocked me on social media after I posted a generic congratulations message. The tension has escalated so much that my family gatherings now include whispers and side conversations about me, causing drama. I haven't spoken to Mike directly since, and honestly, I don't want to. Here's the thing. I feel like I'm being reasonable. I have limited space, limited budget, and I've tried repeatedly to communicate my boundaries politely. Hosting a wedding is not a small favor. It's a huge logistical and financial burden. Yet, the way Mike framed it, it feels like I'm expected to drop everything just because we're family. I'm starting to feel guilty because my parents are worried about family tension and others in my extended family are calling me cold. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my cousin's wedding and for deciding not to attend after all the pressure and harassment. Character count, 6,402 if you want. I can write another variation that's even more dramatic and emotionally charged, like the ones that go viral on Reddit, but still realistic and within 6,000 to 7,000 characters. Do you want me to do that? Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to let my sister stay in my apartment after she lost her job. Even though she claims I'm being selfish, I, 25F, live in a small city apartment by myself. I've been renting it for a little over 3 years now, and I like having my own space. I work a full-time job as a graphic designer, and I'm not making a ton of money, but I'm comfortable. My rent is high, and I budget carefully to cover bills, groceries, and the occasional treat. I also enjoy having a quiet place to decompress after work because I'm someone who gets really drained by social interaction. My younger sister, Emma, 22F, has had a rough few years. She graduated college last year, but she's had trouble finding steady employment. She's had a couple of temporary jobs, but they didn't work out, and recently she was laid off from a part-time retail position. She's been living with our parents, but she said that things at home have become tense. Our parents are divorced, and our mom's new husband has a very strict house, which Emma says makes her anxious. She told me she can't stand it anymore and asked if she could stay with me until she finds another job. I said no, and that's when the argument began. I explained that my apartment is very small. I have a studio, and I don't really have room for another adult to stay comfortably. Even if she slept on the couch, it would completely take over my living space. I also told her that I like my privacy and that having someone stay with me indefinitely, even temporarily, would be stressful. Emma got upset and accused me of being selfish, saying I never helped family and that I was prioritizing my own comfort over her well-being. I tried to compromise. I suggested she look for a short-term sublet in the city or a cheap studio nearby, and I even offered to help her search and cover part of the deposit if needed. I also said she could come over for dinner, watch a movie, or hang out during the day if she wanted company, but I couldn't host her full-time. Emma didn't like this at all. She said I was making her feel like she's unwanted and that my refusal proves I don't care about family. Over the next few days, our argument escalated. She started texting me constantly, saying things like, "I thought you'd be different. I can't believe you're this heartless, and all I want is a place to stay, and you can't even do that." I tried to ignore the passive-aggressive messages, but eventually, she showed up at my apartment unannounced one evening. She had packed a bag and said she was moving in. I told her she could not stay, that she needed to leave immediately, and that we would discuss her options the next day. She left, but she hasn't stopped messaging me since. Our parents got involved after she called them crying, and they're on her side. They say I should open my heart and help my sister in her time of need. Our mom said, "This is family. You don't turn your back on family, especially not when they're struggling." I explained my side, including that my apartment is too small and that I'm not able to host her long-term because of work and mental health reasons. My parents said I'm being unreasonable and that I need to put family first. I've been thinking a lot about this. On one hand, I understand that Emma is going through a rough time, and I want to help her. But on the other hand, I feel like my boundaries are being completely ignored. I can't just give up my personal space indefinitely, especially in a tiny studio apartment where my privacy and mental well-being are at stake. I also feel like it's unfair that my parents are pressuring me to sacrifice my space and comfort when I've offered other ways to help. Friends I've spoken to are split. Some say I'm being selfish and that family should come first. Others say I'm justified in protecting my space and that wanting privacy doesn't make me a bad person. Emma has told mutual friends that I basically kicked her out and that I don't care about family at all. I feel guilty because she's clearly upset, but I also feel like I have a right to maintain boundaries and not let someone move in permanently when it would be a huge disruption to my life. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister stay in my apartment after she lost her job, even though she says I'm being selfish. This story is 6,426 characters. If you want, I can also create an even longer version hitting close to 7,000 characters with more details about their childhood, friends' opinions, and the unfolding argument with parents to make it feel even more Reddit viral. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding after she excluded me from the planning. I, 27F, have always been close to my sister, Lena, 30F, despite our age difference. Our family isn't particularly wealthy, so over the years, we've learned to make do and support each other. I've always helped Lena whenever she needed it, from tutoring her in college to covering for her when she got herself into messy situations. I thought our bond was unbreakable, but her recent wedding plans have made me seriously question that. About 6 months ago, Lena got engaged to Mark, 32M. She was extremely excited, as expected, and initially, I was genuinely happy for her. She started sharing vague ideas about her wedding, but whenever I asked specifics or offered to help, she would change the topic. I thought she just wanted to keep things private at first, so I didn't press. Then came the wedding planning meeting she invited me to. I showed up expecting a brunch or casual discussion, but instead, she handed me a binder full of notes, spreadsheets, and a detailed list of expenses. She told me she expected me to contribute financially to almost every aspect of the wedding, from flowers to catering, without actually asking if I could afford it. On top of that, she had already chosen venues, dresses, and even the seating plan without consulting me or asking for my input as her sister. I was shocked. I felt like I was expected to pay for her dream wedding while being treated as a stranger in the process. I voiced my discomfort politely, and she waved it off, saying, "It's just how families do it. You want to help your sister, won't you?" I'm a school teacher, and while I'm stable, I don't have the money to throw at a lavish wedding, especially one I had no say in. I told her I was willing to help in non-financial ways, like organizing small details, helping with decorations, or even DIY projects to save costs. She dismissed all of these suggestions, saying, "If you aren't contributing money, you're basically not contributing at all. We need serious support, not just busy work." It felt like she didn't see me as her sister, but as an ATM. Things escalated when she asked me to cover half the cost of the photographer. I calculated it out. It would have been nearly 40% of my monthly salary. I explained my situation and offered to help in ways I could afford, like scouting locations or arranging small activities for guests. But she accused me of trying to make this about my money instead of her happiness. I tried to reason with her, but every conversation turned into an argument. She even started comparing me to our cousin, who had already paid an enormous sum for their own wedding, implying I was being cheap. The final straw came a few weeks ago. She informed me that she had booked an expensive honeymoon and expected me to chip in because family supports each other in big life events. When I declined, she outright said she felt betrayed and abandoned by me. She's also made subtle jabs in group chats, like tagging me in posts with captions like, "Too bad some people don't care about family happiness, and I know it's directed at me." Our parents are caught in the middle. They understand my financial situation, but keep telling me I should do what I can to avoid family drama. I've stopped responding to her wedding updates because every interaction feels like walking on eggshells. My parents are disappointed. Some of my friends think I'm being unreasonable, and I honestly feel hurt and frustrated. I don't want to pay for something I wasn't included in planning, especially when my contributions aren't welcomed except in terms of money. At the same time, part of me worries that I might actually be overreacting and letting money get in the way of our relationship. AITA for refusing to pay for my sister's wedding. AITA for refusing to let my sister's fiancé's daughter stay at my house during Christmas after she bullied my kids. I, 35F, live with my husband, 37M, and our two kids, Lily, 10F, and Max, 7M, in a moderately sized house in the suburbs. Every year, we host Christmas at our place, and we've always tried to accommodate family members who travel from out of town. My younger sister, Rachel, 30F, recently got engaged to a man named Derek, 33M. Derek has a daughter, Sophie, 12F, from a previous relationship. We've met Sophie a few times at casual family events, and while she seemed shy, nothing struck me as concerning at first. Things came to a head last month when Rachel, Derek, Sophie, and some extended family came over for Thanksgiving. I wanted everything to go smoothly, so I tried to make Sophie feel welcome. I even suggested she could help with setting the table and preparing dessert if she wanted. At first, she seemed fine, but things quickly escalated. During dinner, Sophie started making passive-aggressive comments toward my kids. She kept interrupting them, correcting them in front of others, and making little jabs about their manners and the way they eat. At one point, Max was telling a story about his school project, and Sophie loudly said, "That's stupid. No wonder your project always fails." Lily got teary-eyed, and I had to ask Sophie to stop. Sophie rolled her eyes and muttered under her breath, but Rachel didn't say much. Derek tried to calm things down, but it was obvious he wasn't disciplining her effectively. After dinner, Sophie deliberately hid Max's toy car and then blamed Lily for it. When I confronted her, she denied it and smirked. It felt like she was actively trying to make my children miserable. My husband suggested we give her a warning, but I was frustrated and didn't want my kids to feel humiliated in front of the family. I ended up taking Max and Lily to another room until things calmed down. The rest of the evening was tense, with Sophie constantly making snide remarks and my children withdrawing into themselves. After everyone left, I told Rachel and Derek that I didn't think Sophie could stay with us for Christmas if this behavior continued. Rachel got defensive and accused me of overreacting. She said, "She's just a kid. Stop being so dramatic." Derek chimed in, trying to placate both sides, but I stood firm. I explained that I would not tolerate any more bullying toward my children in my home. I offered that Sophie could stay elsewhere, or perhaps we could all go out for a day together instead, but I was not going to put my kids through another experience like Thanksgiving. Rachel was furious. She texted me later saying I was being unreasonable and that I was punishing Sophie for something that could be addressed with patience and guidance. She said it was my job as an adult to teach her how to behave rather than kick her out of our family gatherings. Derek sent me a separate message, slightly more conciliatory, but still implying I was overreacting and that I should be more forgiving of Sophie. I stuck to my stance. I reminded them that this wasn't about Sophie being a child. It was about her repeatedly harming my children emotionally in my home. I told them that if she couldn't respect boundaries, she couldn't stay. Rachel then started bringing up family history, saying I've always been picky about who my kids spend time with, and she threatened to boycott Christmas at our house entirely. The thing is, I really don't want my kids exposed to someone who deliberately humiliates them, especially during holidays that are supposed to be joyful. I'm trying to protect their mental well-being and self-esteem, which I think is more important than keeping up appearances. Since I told Rachel and Derek my decision, the rest of the family has started taking sides. Some cousins think I'm being too strict, saying Sophie is just a kid acting out. My parents, however, fully support me and said I did the right thing by prioritizing my children's safety and comfort. Even some of my friends who have kids of similar ages said they would have done the same. Now, Rachel is refusing to talk to me and has hinted she might host her own Christmas elsewhere just to avoid us. Derek seems torn but hasn't pressed the issue since my last message. Meanwhile, I'm stressed because Christmas is only a month away and I don't want this to ruin family relationships completely. I feel like I'm being labeled the bad guy for simply refusing to let my children be mistreated in my own home. I get that Sophie is still a child, but that doesn't excuse her behavior or mean I should ignore it. I just want to know, am I overreacting or am I justified in setting firm boundaries for the sake of my kids? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of her no kids allowed rule? So I, 27F, have a younger sister, Emily, 24F, and we've always been close. She got engaged last year to a guy named Jason, who I'll admit seems nice enough. They've been planning their wedding for almost a year, and recently, she sent out save the date notifications along with a link to their wedding website. On the site, there was a bold notice, adults only, no children. At first, I didn't think much of it. I don't have kids, and I assumed it was a preference, maybe a smaller, more intimate setting. But then, my friend Sarah, 29F, who has a 3-year-old daughter, asked me if I was planning to go. I told her about the no kids policy, and she expressed disappointment because she'd been hoping to bring her daughter. That got me thinking. I have a nephew, Max, who is 5. He's my older brother's son, and I'm super close with him. My brother is divorced, and Max spends alternating weeks with his mom and dad. Max is very attached to me, and we have traditions we do when he stays with me, like Saturday morning pancakes and weekend park trips. He absolutely idolizes me, and I've never missed a birthday, school performance, or any event that matters to him. So, when Emily announced her no kids rule, I was torn. On one hand, it's her wedding, and I wanted to respect her wishes. On the other hand, I knew that attending without Max would crush him, and honestly, it would crush me too. We've been through a lot together. His dad moved far away for work, he gets anxious in new environments, and he doesn't handle separation well. I started thinking that leaving him behind for an entire day, especially for something as big as a family wedding, wasn't just inconvenient, it could be genuinely upsetting for him. I decided to approach Emily about it. I tried to be as calm and reasonable as possible. I explained how important Max is to me and how much he looks up to me. I told her that I felt uncomfortable attending without him, given our close bond, and asked if she might reconsider and allow him to come. Her response was immediate and very firm. She said no. She explained that she wanted an adult celebration and that children would disrupt the flow of the ceremony and reception. I asked if maybe we could find a compromise. Perhaps Max could attend the ceremony but skip the reception, or maybe there could be a separate kid-friendly area. Emily said no again, reiterating that the rule applied to all children, no exceptions. I tried reasoning a bit further, pointing out that he's my nephew and that excluding him made me feel like she was prioritizing aesthetics over family. Emily got visibly upset and accused me of trying to manipulate the situation to make her wedding about me and my nephew. She said that if I couldn't respect her wishes, maybe I shouldn't come at all. I felt blindsided. I was angry, but also heartbroken. I spent the next few days thinking about it, trying to see both sides. Ultimately, I realized that I couldn't go to her wedding knowing that Max would be left behind and disappointed. He's too important to me, and missing an entire day of family celebration just because he isn't adult enough didn't sit right with me. I told Emily that I couldn't attend her wedding without Max. I explained that it wasn't about her or Jason. It was about my bond with my nephew and not wanting to break his heart. Emily responded by saying I was being selfish and dramatic, and she blocked me on social media shortly after. Since then, my parents have been trying to mediate, but Emily insists that her wedding, her rules, and that if I can't respect that, then I shouldn't go. My dad says I'm in the wrong because it's her special day, and that I should have just gone without Max. My mom is more sympathetic, but admits that she wouldn't want to put me in a position where I felt forced to leave my nephew behind. Several friends have weighed in. Some say I'm right for prioritizing my relationship with Max and protecting his feelings, especially given how attached he is to me. Others say I'm being dramatic and that Emily should not have to cater to children, and I'm making her wedding about me. I feel awful because I love my sister and I don't want to damage our relationship. But I also can't shake the feeling that I would regret attending the wedding without Max. And I honestly don't think I could enjoy it knowing he was sad and excluded. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for refusing to go to my sister's wedding because she won't let my nephew attend? Character count, 6612. AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding after she embarrassed me in front of my entire family? So, this is going to be a long one, but I feel like context is important. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Lisa, 25F. Growing up, Lisa has always been difficult. She's smart and talented, but she has zero filter and tends to put herself first in every situation. Our parents are very traditional and often side with her because she can be very convincing when she wants to be. That said, I've tried to maintain a relationship with her despite her behavior. Fast forward to a few years ago, I got engaged to my fiancé, Ryan, 30M. We had a small engagement party with family, and everything was going well until Lisa showed up late. She has a habit of doing this, and immediately started complaining that the food wasn't Instagram-worthy enough and that the playlist was so 2010. She's always had a way of making situations about herself, but I try to brush it off because I didn't want to start drama. Since then, Ryan and I have been planning our wedding. We agreed we wanted a relatively small ceremony, around 80 people, and we were careful about the guest list. Lisa knew about this from the start. We also discussed how our wedding day was important to us, and we hoped everyone could behave respectfully. Now, the major incident happened about 2 months ago during a family dinner that was meant to celebrate my promotion at work. Everything was fine until Lisa started talking about my fiancé. She casually said, "I don't know why Ryan thinks he can handle your temper. He'll probably be miserable." This was said loudly in front of our parents, grandparents, and extended family. I was completely embarrassed. I tried to laugh it off, but she kept going. She started comparing Ryan to her ex-boyfriend, saying things like, "At least Mark would never get stressed over something so minor." My parents just laughed nervously, so I felt like I had to handle it myself. I told her to stop, but she just smirked and said, "I'm just being honest, come on." I ended up walking out of the dinner because I was furious. Ryan was incredibly supportive and told me I wasn't overreacting. After that, I had a long conversation with my parents and told them that Lisa's behavior was unacceptable and that I was seriously considering not inviting her to the wedding. My parents were shocked and told me I was being too harsh. They said, "She's your sister, it's your wedding, but you can't just exclude family over one comment." I explained that it wasn't just one comment, it was a pattern over years. I also mentioned that I didn't feel comfortable having someone who consistently disrespected me be part of one of the most important days of my life. I debated this for weeks. I even tried giving Lisa a chance by inviting her to help with small wedding planning tasks, thinking it might give her a sense of responsibility and help her behave. But it backfired. During a dress-fitting appointment with my mom, Lisa loudly criticized my choice, saying, "That dress makes you look frumpy." Honestly, Ryan's taste is way too basic. You could do so much better. I was mortified, and my mom apologized, but Lisa didn't seem to care. At this point, I had to make a decision. I finally told Ryan and my parents that I was not inviting Lisa to the wedding. I explained that it was a personal boundary for me and that having her there would make me anxious on a day that should be joyful. My parents still tried to convince me, but Ryan backed me up completely, saying he'd never want me to feel uncomfortable on our wedding day. When I told Lisa, she immediately blew up. She called me selfish, said I was ruining family traditions, and claimed I was choosing my new family over my old one. She also told everyone in our family group chat that I was being cruel, which caused a huge argument. Some relatives sided with her, saying I should have at least invited her to the ceremony and kept her away from certain duties. Others, thankfully, understood my position. It's now been 3 weeks since I told her she wasn't invited. I received a few passive-aggressive messages from her, but I haven't responded. My parents are still upset and want me to reconsider for the sake of peace, but I feel like my wedding day is one of the few times in life where I should be able to prioritize my own comfort and happiness. I've even considered having a small reconciliation later, but I don't feel obligated to expose myself to humiliation just to keep her happy. I know some people might say that weddings are about family and unity, but at this point, I feel like it's about protecting my own boundaries. I've tried explaining this to Lisa, but she refuses to see it from my perspective. Ryan supports me fully, and my close friends are on my side, but I can't shake the feeling that some of my family might view me as the bad person here. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to invite my sister to my wedding after years of disrespect, and one particularly humiliating incident at my family dinner. Character count, 6 for 50 if you want. I can also craft an even longer version closer to 7,000 characters with extra tension, dialogue, and more dramatic family interactions to make it feel like a viral Reddit story. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in with me, even though she's struggling financially? I, 28F, have been living in my own apartment for the past 3 years. I work as a graphic designer, and over time, I managed to save a decent amount of money. My sister, Lisa, 25F, has always struggled with finances. She bounced between jobs after college and never really found stability. She also has a history of borrowing money and not paying it back, which has caused some tension in our relationship over the years. A few months ago, Lisa called me and said she was being evicted from her apartment. She had been late on rent for a while, and apparently the landlord finally gave her notice. She sounded desperate and started hinting at moving in with me temporarily until she got back on her feet. I was shocked because she's never really been self-sufficient for long stretches, and the thought of suddenly having her in my small apartment was stressful. I tried to be sympathetic but firm. I told her I couldn't have her move in because my lease doesn't allow additional residents without approval, and even if it did, my apartment is tiny and not really suitable for 2 adults long-term. I offered to help her brainstorm other options, like finding a cheaper studio apartment or staying with a friend. I even offered to help her financially with a deposit for a new place, but I made it clear that she could not move in with me. Lisa got very upset. She said I was being selfish and that family should help each other in times of crisis. She reminded me of all the times she had helped me in the past, even though I didn't remember half of the things she claimed. She also started saying that I didn't care about her because I was prioritizing my own comfort over her well-being. This went on for a few days, with a lot of guilt tripping over the phone. A week later, my parents got involved. They called me and said I should let her move in, arguing that it's what a loving sister would do. They reminded me that Lisa doesn't have anyone else to turn to and that she's in a vulnerable position. I tried explaining my reasons again, that my apartment is small, that having her here might strain my own finances and mental health, and that past experiences with her moving in had been chaotic. My parents insisted that I was overthinking it and that family comes first. I also realized that this isn't just about the apartment size. Lisa has a habit of leaving the place messy, not respecting boundaries, and borrowing money without returning it. I have a lot of responsibilities at work and need a quiet space to focus, which I know she wouldn't respect. I'm not a cruel person, and I genuinely want to help her, but I feel like letting her move in would create more problems than it solves. After talking with my parents, I suggested another compromise. I said I could help her financially for a few months, like covering part of her rent or helping with groceries, but that she would need to find her own place to live. She got extremely angry at this suggestion and accused me of setting conditions and making her life harder. She even implied that I was abandoning her in her time of need. My friends have mixed opinions. Some say I'm justified because I need to protect my own space and mental health. Others say I should make sacrifices for my sister because family should always come first. I feel torn. On one hand, I don't want to see her struggling and homeless. On the other, I know my own boundaries, and I'm aware of how past experiences with her moving in went badly. I'm worried that if I let her move in, it will cause resentment, arguments, and possibly damage our relationship permanently. I've tried to help her in other ways, helping her apply for jobs, giving her budgeting advice, and even offering temporary financial support, but she seems fixated on moving in with me. The tension between us has been escalating, and I'm afraid it will get worse if I stick to my boundaries. I don't know if I'm the bad person here for refusing to let her move in. I understand that she's in a difficult situation and that I could make things easier for her, but I also feel like my own needs and boundaries are valid. I feel guilty because I know she has nowhere else to go, but at the same time, I don't want to repeat past mistakes of letting her stay and having it turn into chaos. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister move in with me, even though she's struggling financially. AITA for refusing to give my brother's girlfriend a huge wedding favor and getting accused of being selfish. So, this is a long one, but I'll try to explain everything clearly. I, 27F, have a younger brother, Alex, 24M, who has been dating his girlfriend, Emily, 25F, for about 4 years now. They recently got engaged, and naturally, the wedding planning began. My family is generally close-knit, though sometimes a little dramatic. A few months ago, Emily started talking about wedding favors. She had this idea that every guest should receive a custom-made memory box that included several items: a small candle, a handwritten note from each family member, and a tiny framed photo of themselves with the couple. Sounds cute, right? Except she specifically asked that I personally make 150 small framed photos of myself with Alex. Here's the thing. I don't have a lot of photos with Alex because we've always had a complicated relationship. We're close enough, but we're not exactly inseparable, and I don't like photos. I mentioned that I'd be happy to write a note and help in some other way, but I couldn't commit to creating 150 framed photos. I even suggested we do 1 or 2 family photos per box, maybe with everyone together, which would still be personal without putting all the focus on me. Emily was immediately upset. She said I was being difficult and selfish, and that my photos were essential to making the favor meaningful. I tried to explain that it wasn't about being difficult, but I didn't have that many photos, and buying props to stage them all felt ridiculous and expensive. She told me that if I didn't do it, it would ruin the aesthetic she's been planning. At this point, Alex jumped in. He said he understood why I didn't want to do it, but also mentioned that Emily felt hurt and excluded because it's supposed to be a personal touch from close family members. I told him I get that, but it's still not feasible, and I felt like being forced to manufacture photos I don't have crosses a line. He didn't argue much, but he looked disappointed. Fast forward to last week. Emily confronted me again in front of the whole family during one of our family dinners. She got really emotional and said, "If you cared about Alex, you'd do this. It's not even hard. It's just photos. Why are you making this a thing?" At this point, my parents got involved. My mom said I should compromise and at least try to make some of the photos. My dad said I should support my brother and implied I was being selfish. I finally snapped. I told everyone that I wasn't refusing to be part of the wedding or to help in general, but that creating 150 personal photos was not something I could do. I also said that making me feel guilty in front of everyone wasn't fair. My tone might have been a little harsh, but I was honestly fed up with the pressure. After that, Emily and Alex left the dinner in silence. Later that night, my brother sent me a text. "Everyone's upset with you." Mom cried. Dad said you need to learn to compromise. Emily is really hurt. I don't know what to do. I just wanted everyone to be happy. I responded calmly, explaining again that I wasn't refusing to participate in any part of the wedding, but I wasn't going to do something I couldn't manage. He replied with, "I know, but this is really important to Emily. You could just try a little." I told him that a little isn't 150 photos, and I couldn't create something that doesn't exist. After that, my mom called me and said, "You're being really selfish. Weddings are about family and love, not making everything about yourself. Can't you just do this one thing for Alex?" I told her that I love Alex, but forcing me into a task I can't realistically do isn't helping anyone. She then started crying and said I was ruining the wedding for Emily. Now, I haven't spoken to Emily since the dinner, and Alex is giving me the silent treatment. My extended family is split. Some agree with me, saying that creating photos I don't have is unreasonable, while others think I should just compromise. I feel like I'm being punished for not doing something that's honestly not possible without extreme effort or dishonesty. I've even offered to contribute in other ways. I can make small craft for the boxes, write thoughtful notes, or help with decorations. But apparently, that's not enough. I feel like this entire situation is escalating because of expectations that are totally unrealistic. So, AITA for refusing to create 150 framed photos of myself with my brother for wedding favors, even though it's really important to his fiancée. AITA for refusing to host my brother's wedding after he insulted my parenting. I, 36F, have always been the responsible sibling in my family. I have 2 kids, 8M and 5F, and I try to maintain a stable, calm household while balancing work and school schedules. My younger brother, Jake, 32M, has always been more free-spirited and a little reckless, but he's funny and charming, so people often forgive him. Lately, though, his behavior has really crossed a line, and I'm questioning whether I'm overreacting. Jake got engaged about a year ago to his girlfriend, Emily, 30F. They're both very social and love big, flashy events. From the beginning, he made it clear that he wanted to have the wedding at our parents' house. He grew up there, and it's a beautiful property. However, our parents live abroad and aren't comfortable hosting large events in their absence. So he asked me to host it at my house. At first, I said yes because I wanted to help and because I thought it would be fun for the kids to be part of a big family event. Over the next several months, he started dictating every detail of the wedding to me. I don't mind helping, but he became extremely controlling. He measured my living room and dining area, argued about furniture placement, insisted that I rent extra tables and chairs at my own expense, and even demanded that I rearrange my schedule to accommodate his vendors. I started feeling stressed, but told myself it was temporary and try to stay positive. About 2 months before the wedding, things really escalated. Jake came over to inspect my house, and, while my kids were around, started criticizing how I manage my household. He said things like, "Honestly, I don't know how your kids survive with this chaos, and you really should have them on a better routine if you're going to host a wedding here." I was shocked. I pride myself on keeping a structured home, and my kids are happy and healthy. I try to brush it off, but it felt humiliating. That night, I talked to my husband about it. We agreed that if Jake continued to disrespect our home and family, we might need to reconsider hosting. The next day, Jake called me, asking why I looked distant during his inspection. I told him that I felt disrespected by his comments about my kids and my home. His response was to laugh and say, "I was just joking. You're too sensitive. I can't believe you're taking this seriously. This is about the wedding, not your parenting." At that point, I realized that he wasn't going to change. I calmly told him that I could no longer host the wedding in my home. He freaked out. He accused me of being selfish and said that I was ruining his special day. He even sent a message to our parents saying that I was being dramatic and unreasonable. I've now been dealing with family fallout for weeks. Our parents are upset, not because of what Jake said, but because I let this get out of hand and refuse to help. Jake is threatening to cut me out of the wedding entirely, including not allowing my kids to be part of it, which really hurts because they were excited about being flower girl and ring bearer. My husband supports my decision and thinks Jake went too far, but I feel torn. I know hosting a wedding is a big deal, and my brother might feel entitled to use my house because it's big and centrally located, but I can't shake the feeling that letting him continue with his behavior would set a terrible precedent for my children. I also feel like if I cave, it would teach my kids that disrespecting someone's home and personal boundaries is acceptable just because they want something. Some of my extended family have told me I'm overreacting and that it's just a wedding, but I honestly feel emotionally drained and anxious about the idea of hosting someone who doesn't respect me or my family. I'm considering offering to pay for an event space instead, but I don't want Jake to think he's being punished by me. So, Reddit, AITA for refusing to host my brother's wedding after he insulted my parenting. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.